to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Tawna Allred is with me today. In 2009, right out of interior design school with 3 young children, Tawna launched her one-woman interior design business. In her business, she focuses on design build projects, and she also offers full-service design with plan conceptualization to furniture installation and styling. Her husband, Dave, is a contractor, and although they actually have separate businesses, he's a huge mentor and supporter of her work. Tawna and her husband and their kids live in Star Valley, Wyoming, which you will see and hear why I'm telling you that, okay? So my conversation with Tawna was very special. I've met Tawna before in real life, and I really do like her so much. And this conversation was just at a level that I had not imagined. And I really, 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 really do think that you're going to enjoy it as well. Because the thing is, this one, unlike many of our episodes, is not about how Tawna built her design business, but it's about how after 10 years in business, she took a pause and she just pulled everything back and decided to shift gears because she needed to find that spark that she had once had in business. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. Before we do, I want to thank J-Pour Living. J-Pour is our sponsor of the show, and it is the place where you can source the finest in handmade, one-of-a-kind area rugs. You can do it convenient, fast, and easy, and transparent. Did you know that you can check inventory in real time at jpourliving.com? So that means at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you can't sleep, you can see if that rug that you love is in stock. That's right. And here's the other cool thing. When you place an order at jpourliving.com, you are going to find out that 98% of the in-stock orders ship within 1 business day. Okay. And the entire time your order is in process, you are going to get email status updates of it. What could be better than that? I mean, am I right? So go to jpourliving.com/LuAnn and open your trade account today. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation with Tawna. And I'm wondering and curious if maybe you might find it validating in some ways. Let's see. Hi, Tawna. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
This is a long time coming, Tawna, isn't it?
I guess so. Yeah. It's been a journey, huh?
Yes, it has between you and I. You've shown me a lot of grace in that journey, Tawna, and I appreciate it. Oh, my goodness. I'm laughing because what you guys don't know is that Tawna and I first met each other through Instagram like 3 years ago, right? It's a long time ago, 3 years ago. And we started interacting, and I remember Jenny Madden came on the show. And Jenny Madden, of course, is a luxury interior designer here in New Jersey that Window Works is fortunate enough to work with. And Jenny and her husband, Greg, did this great husband and wife show. And then all of a sudden I started getting requests for more husband and wife shows. And I already knew you, Tawna. I had known that your husband was a contractor. And, you know, in my brain, I'm like, hey, let's get you on. And I won't go into the rest of the crazy mess, but it was a big debacle caused by me. And here we are 3 years later. But the interesting thing is this is going to be, I think, a better show than that ever would have been, because we reconnected again this past year in 2020. And of course, we've met each other since in real life, but reconnected again. And you shared some things with me in your journey of being an entrepreneur over the last couple of years that I think probably happens to more people than we realize. But as you said to me, we don't talk about it. So we're here to talk about how you had a moment in your business where you just were really, experiencing burnout. And you said to me, feeling like you were underwater. So tell us a little bit about that, Tawna, and what that meant to you. And what we're going to then talk about is the actions that you took in relation to that feeling and all of the goodness that has come from the way you handled that low moment in your experience. So, but tell us about it.
Well, when we say underwater, that's almost like option on the table to shut this down because I was just tired. I was tired of the fight. I'd come through a couple of bad clients where I was just like, why am I doing this? But it was, sometimes those low moments give us the clarity we need to restructure things in better ways. So here I am, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. So what happens now is that you're feeling overwhelmed. You've got a couple of clients that don't go well. And you're just looking, and you were 10 years in business. This isn't like I'm a minute in business and I don't know what I'm doing. And I also want to share something that you pointed out to me is that, doing business in Wyoming isn't really like the rest of us just opening up shop. It has the challenges of being in such a rural and low population area. Like I'm looking for the opposite of densely. I don't know what the word is.
There's just more cows than people. Cows don't need you to design houses.
You know what's so funny about you just said that? I happened to watch an old episode of Hollywood Squares just 2 nights ago, and one of the questions was, are there more women in Texas or cows in Texas? And the answer was, there are more cows in Texas than women.
I need to find some Texas designers, and maybe we could talk.
Right. And so that is the thing. So I want to have a little bit more table set here. So,
Okay.
this is 10 years in business. This is not a minute. You're seasoned here. You know what you're doing. Your husband is a contractor. You're not still trying to figure it out. But what you're doing is you come to this moment where you're like, why am I figuring this out? Why am I doing this? Is this really what I want to be doing? Right.
And I'm in the design build sector more. So, nitty gritty construction work, versus sometimes we don't even get to the end pretty part. It's a lot of kitchens and a lot of just technical stuff. And, in the beginning when my background, my first degree is in art, and, and I go into design because I'm creative, and this is going to be so fun. And, so, there's that learning curve. There are no other design firms. There are about an hour away, but where I live, there are no other design firms to show me how to do it or get a job to get your feet wet. It was, we're starting now, and hang on, because you're just going to have to learn this by doing it. And, that's an interesting way to learn. And so that's probably part of the burnout, right? Just because that is such a huge learning curve.
Yes. It's so, it's crazy the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs that we go through, right?
Yeah. And I was 10 years in business. I was at a point, part of the struggle was why am I feeling like this? Like I went into this because I love it and I still do. And I'm sitting here thinking I should be having a 10-year anniversary celebration. And I'm like looking at, should I just be done with this? And that was a hard thing for me to reconcile in my brain because, I still love interior design.
So, what goes through my mind right now is looking back, or did you know it then? Do you feel like you mentioned how art is your first degree, and that at heart you're an artist and a creative, and it almost sounded like you were kind of saying in there that doing the hardscapes in the design build process wasn't really reaching the level of creativity or something. I'm kind of putting words in your mouth, but I kind of felt like I was hearing that. But I also heard you were saying that the clients, you were having problems with the clients. So do you have any perspective on, was it really that you were tired and frustrated and overwhelmed with the interactions with the clients that maybe might not have always been positive? Or do you think it was the inner struggle of, I'm not creating what I want to create? I might be creating something, but I'm not feeling in tune with what I'm creating now.
So actually, the technical part didn't bother me so much. In fact, when I get into harder puzzles, I get more excited about the process. I have a kitchen renovation right now that it's our second time around with these clients. They're great clients, and this house is hard. Their house got flooded. A friend left water on in the winter in their house and destroyed their house. So we're starting over again. And, I'm excited, and they're great clients. And because it's actually more of a challenge, I was burned out on the people part, which is it's a hard thing to say because you got to design for people. But I remember in one of your Facebook forums, talking, and it's about the only one I ever contributed to, but getting people to realize that how big of a service business this is. And, the creative part is small, and that creative part is fun. And it's really rewarding when you get done and you see the project and everyone's happy. And that happens most of the time. But I was burnt out on when, just people needing you all the time, I would say. I'm running business. I'm taking, I'm mom too,
Right.
and so that was wearing, you got kids, you come home and people need you too. So it's the constant, what do you need? What do you need? How can I get that for you? And that has to be a part of your business if you're an interior designer. And also, I would say, it's a very difficult thing out here with contractors and subcontractors. And I think a lot of designers have felt this way, just struggling with that dynamic. Like, unless it's my husband who appreciates, what I can bring to the table, I'm in a place where I'm bringing something to the table, and there's contractors that are like, I've never worked with a designer before. I don't email. I can't get you a schedule. I've never had one.
Right.
And this is not how we run things around here. Or if I come up with an idea, who can do it? I don't know. We're going to have to find someone,
Yeah.
So I think those things were just starting to just conglomerate and wear me down.
Well, and I think that each one of us, no matter what our own personal dynamics of our family situation is, whether we still have young kids, or maybe we don't have young kids anymore, but we have parents that we're looking after, or, whatever the world is in each of our individual homes, what we know is that we all have something on our plate. That's the point, whatever it is. If you have 15 dogs, you got 15 dogs on your plate. Like, they all have to be fed and walked, whatever it is. And it is, it is the sort of thing that as an entrepreneur, it is so hard to put the boundaries and the parameters on so that you can manage the other compartments of your life. But if you don't, then that is how you get down that road to overwhelm. Because if you are, in your case as a mother, if you are taking care of clients and contractors and other trades all the way up till 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. So what are we doing? We're now taking 25 minutes to pay attention to littles at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And maybe, one of your kids needs extra that night and isn't happy with, great, mom, thanks for dinner, I'm going to bed. Like, actually wants to hang out with mom, right? Or is having a bad day at school or themselves and they need extra care, and you're doing it. And I remember those days. It's very, very hard. And even now, I don't have any of that on my plate, but I'm aware of my daughters and when they need help with their children. And so it's tough. And so you got to this point, Tawna, where you should be really happy and proud of yourself that you have the 10-year anniversary of your business right in front of you. And you're neither of those things. And you decide... is this the moment that you decide that you are going to pull back from everything? You're going to pull back from social. I know you pull back from social. I do know you happen to stop listening to my podcast too.
I had to be on everything. I that's what I have to tell for a little while. Because I'd spent a lot of my early years diving into business. I'm one of the first women business owners in my family. I don't know how to run a stinking business, So the first few years, I'm like gung ho. I'm eating everything up. I've hired coaches to help me get through like stuff. I'm like, whoa, I didn't, like I have this, I don't, I did a lot of, learner is my number one Gallup strength. And so I can just, anything you can throw at me, I'll eat it up. And I can learn rapidly and I love it. And so, but it had been years of this, and finally I was just like, I need to shut it down. So I stayed on Instagram because, I still like to look at it and keep connections there. I've made important connections there. But everyone said, you can't get off Facebook. Google uses the algorithms to help with, your landing pages. And I finally was just like, I'm shutting it down. I've just got to shut down all of these inputs and just go to what do I want to do now? I've just been listening to everyone for years. That advice. I've been grabbing it. And actually, it's kind of interesting when I don't know if it was right when you started your podcast, but one of the things that caught my attention and why I stayed listening was because you started talking about how you didn't need a coach all of the time. It was one of the first podcasts I listened to, and I thought, who is this lady? Kind of interested in what she has to say. This is the first time I've ever heard someone say, like, start to trust your gut. That was years back. But I just felt like I had to shut out the noise and I had to go back. And what I started doing is like, my art has always been a little bit a part of my business. Years ago, I worked out a great schedule with a coach to do Mondays through Wednesdays as interior design, Thursdays business development day, Fridays art day, because she felt like, that's such a big part of who I am that shouldn't ever go away. And so I thought, I'm going to go back to my roots. I'm going to shut out all of this input. I stopped listening to news. He asked me today. I was just like, it's too negative. Like, I'm not feeling great. Like, I'm just going to, and then I'm going to go back to my roots and I'm going to try to kick out a little drawing or a painting, one a day. And just, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to go there.
Interesting.
And that's where I started. Yeah.
And so then that's like, basically that creates the connection back to your being, your soul, right?
Mm-hmm. yeah, I just had to find it again because I'd been listening to so many other people, and I love people's advice. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh no, that's a great idea too.
Right, right.
And I just been doing that for years. And so it was kind of extreme, but I felt like it needed to happen because I needed to decide what I wanted to do with this business that, it did so much for me. I was so excited about it in the beginning, but I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with it.
So, to what level are we talking about? Did you at some point, whether it was right away, rip the band aid, or gradually actually stop designing as well, Tawna, or you just pulled back from all of the information gathering that you had always been involved in, whether it was from social or podcasts or news or whatever it was? Or did you actually, as you started to paint more and get back into that, did you stop to take projects and actually have a point where you put your business on hold?
I said no to a couple of jobs in the beginning just because I'd already come off some bad, you know, client experiences and there was red flags. So there was a few that I said no to and I could have taken them. Um, but I didn't say no. No, I never like said I'm not going to take interior design jobs. I kind of took that day by day and, seeing what the project was, just a couple in the beginning. But I couldn't make that commitment all the way
Right.
because I didn't know.
Right. But it did make it so that you were okay with saying no to projects that were not ideal for you, and probably the year before you might have said yes to them.
Hmm. Well, I most of the time I've just said yes because I needed the experience. We don't have, I don't have as heavy as a scheduling as I think as a lot of interior designers have. And that was the other thing. It was like, how can I make this business fit my personality, fit my life, and fit the fact that I really am in Wyoming? Yeah, I know I can get jobs, from other places, and I have done remote design. Um, but do I want it to be 100% design all the time? I
Mm.
was really liking the fact that the art was making its way back into my life. And I'd never been able to get an art business off the ground very well. Um, but I liked the fact that I was able to practice it again. And I
Mm.
just went off of that feeling again. Like, I don't think we have to be miserable. You know what I mean? I was like, there has to be fun still in what we're doing. We still need to have a light inside of us, when we're going after these projects, even the interior design projects. There's got to be something there that gets us excited again to get those creative juices going again. So we give the best to our clients.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, it's I think that we all can relate to this in some level or another, whether any one of us has ever hit that wall or we've just seen it. I can tell you that, I had a recent episode over the summer with Amber de la Garza, and she is the woman that coaches me in productivity and so forth, and she has her own show on it and everything. And I had gotten to the point where I was the cog. I was the problem why I couldn't find time, and I wouldn't give in to the solution for finding the time. And when I did, it was earth shattering. But the point was, I can remember saying to her in the previous months to that breakthrough is really, I mean, there's no other word for it. It was a breakthrough. It was as impactful as the word breakthrough is. But the thing was that I had been coming to our coaching session saying, I'm not at the wall, but I can see it. I'm not there. I'm not, it's not right in front of my nose, but normally I only see light and I am seeing wall. You know what I mean? And so for me, making this big change that we described in that other episode, it just took the world off my shoulders and made me light. So I didn't need to pull back all kinds of things. But if I have to say, if I had not been working with her on that, there's not a chance I would have come to the solution without her guidance and without her insistence on it. And maybe, okay, so let's say maybe in a year I might have finally figured it out, but I would have been at the wall way before the year. And so I think that's what happens. Like it was building up. You were feeling like you're seeing the wall, but not having any outside. Well, on one hand, what's funny is the outside stuff was just making the wall come closer because it was information. And to your point, being a learner, I understand that because I'm the same way. I mean, I say this example all the time. I've been an athlete my whole life. I know how to run. I know how to swim. I know how to ride a bike. But when I went to do a triathlon, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever, I had to read a book on it as if I didn't know how to do these things. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I want to learn about the triathlon. And so the point is, I get that. It's like all the information coming in has its own little addiction is not a nice word to use because it to me it lessens the real word of addiction. It just has its own enticements, but if you don't have the filters and you don't have the brakes on, they can be overwhelming. All of that information too, right?
And it gets into an interesting question, like when do you need a coach? When do you need someone to help you through?
Good point.
And when do you need to shut it down and listen to yourself? And I don't have the answer for that.
Right. Well, and it is an answer that only can come from inside. I have to tell you, I really do believe that because, and I have to say, your experience there with the one coach, however long before that, telling you to put Thursdays aside for art, here it is, however many years forward, and that little information right there was hanging for you to grab onto. So, you didn't need the coach this time, but therefore, and you know what, it could have been your mom that could have told you that. It doesn't have to be paid coaching. You know what I mean? It could have been your mom that said, Tawna, you're an artist. Paint 2 hours a week on Thursday mornings. What are you doing? Right? So it's just, but then you do need to always rely on your inner voice, your goddess voice that says, this is what I need. I need to do this. But I think the bigger message here is that when there's a lot of noise, it's hard to hear your goddess voice. And for me, it wasn't so much noise. It was pressure. And it was something that I had clung to as a belief that there was no one that could do this but me, or I was going to jeopardize everything I was building. And so it really took, you see, my inner voice in that thing was searching for the solution out, but the exterior things, noise, everything I wasn't getting through. I wasn't hearing her. You know what I mean? And thank God I had Amber to hear.
And my coach was fantastic. And and her advice was spot on. And it's what's grounded me all these years to keep. She knew, she could see that I needed the art. And she's like, I don't know if you can just like jump over to interior design and do that full-fledged. She saw that way back when I was like, I'm so excited for interior design. Woo!
That's interesting, right? It takes somebody looking at us from the outside in sometimes.
And then just 10 years later, I'm saying I need to know what Tawna wants at this point, because there's a lot of stuff I'm processing here. So,
So you start to do your art more. Do you do it more often, or you just do it for all day Thursday? Like, what is the progression of the transition? Because it turns out that some of the things that come from it is that you are doing a lot more of the art now, and it's become something that is part of your new business model and revenue streams, right?
It is, which, again, like follow that fun somewhat, follow that spark a little bit, and good things will come out of it.
I love it. And so how did it happen? I mean, do you really just legitimately start to do it on Thursdays, or do you add another day, or tell us the progression of it, of how, I guess what it is I'm hearing that you understood that the art was that light inside of you that you're talking about and connecting back to that. But when
Mm-hmm.
does it become, oh, and this could be part of how I earn money for myself and my family, as opposed to that fun thing that you do to reward your soul?
Mm-hmm. Um, well, for a little while, my week inversed. So I did art 3 days of the week. That was usually
Mm.
my design time. I still kept Thursday for business development. And then Fridays I did interior design. And it just so happened that the projects worked out and that I was able to do that. However, I honestly think it's just a lot of time too, and building relationships over the course of the decade. I mean, I had those connections from going to design markets. So, there were already designers out there that knew I could create interior design renderings for them, and if they
Mm.
got in a pickle that they could call me. Um, the reason the art probably wasn't working 10 years ago is because I hadn't built that network. I didn't have it, we were just coming out of college and things like that. So, um, it's all of it. It's just the journey. There's enough of a network there. And then I had already spotted companies I could approach at market. Even though I was there for clients looking at furniture, I would always drop into the art places and I'd be like looking around, like, okay, there's a name I can pick up here, and
Mm.
I'd put it in my purse. And the last market around, I just was like, I'm just going to have to be a big girl and go talk to these guys. It's not my favorite thing to do. And I brought my portfolio, my art portfolio with me to market. And I just started kind of cold turkey showing it to people.
And asking them if you could do art for the company, like, let's say it's Left Bank Art or whatever the different, I don't know the different art companies,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be
Mm-hmm.
like, I know Kelly Ellis does art for Left Bank Art. So you're talking about that sort of thing at market. You're making connections and showing them your portfolio and asking if there's an opportunity to create art for their lines.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. I
interesting.
thought that's it. I was like, well, I can do that. But then you have the friendships and, just these wonderful interior design friends I've developed over the years that might need, a certain painting or something for a project that they can't find. Or, when I'm slow, because I don't always have interior design projects. Again, we don't have a lot of people. So how can I fill this pipeline in? You know, when it's and we have really hard winters, right? The uh, building just, unless you have a project, a big enough project that'll carry you through the winter, you know, you can't build a house in negative 25 degrees. So,
I
um,
see.
so you just have to. It became apparent that I needed to just started creating trickles of things here and there. I
Mm.
stopped saying interior design, I want you to do my yearly salary. And that was stressing me out because I kept, I've got to market, I've got to go call these people, I've got to do this, where I could all of a sudden sit back and relax and say, well, even though it's not a ton of money coming from over here, it'll be a trickle and then it'll pay
Mm.
for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I know I'm slow every March and April. So, you know, why don't we just reach out and say, hey, I'm available for design renderings if you guys need something, and I would start to ask the designers like how, what's your pain point with that? And most of the time it's speed. And I
Mm.
had to work through that for a little while because I'm not a computer.
Right.
I'm doing these hand renderings. Um, so I just started to create this email clear email like this is what I need and I can do this in a day if we have this and this beforehand. And So just started working through that. And one of the other things is just because I'm still a learner, in the fall I signed up for a action photography uh I don't know, clinic summit. I don't know. I spent like 7 days driving to Jackson back and forth, and we were um you know, taking our cameras with the athletes that are kayaking the whitewater and rock climbing and trail running and just I was just looking for fun again and getting excited about because it's all art, right? Interior
Yes.
design to me is art. Like this room in this square, I can make this magnificent thing. And then in my paintings, same thing. And it's now let's jump into photography. And this is fun because I love being outdoors and doing these kind of nitty gritty things, which was fantastic too, because I met all of these people. I'm like, these are my people. I like to go and do these, really outdoorsy, physical things. So all of that, it was just starting to add back to, you know, okay, I've got this. We just need to find the fun again.
It's very special what you've created for yourself because you know what, Tana, I don't remember when it happened. I have no idea if it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago. I have the slightest idea. But I remember coming across one of your Instagram posts, and it was you in your studio. And I feel like the picture of you was us looking over your back, and you had a huge canvas in front of you, and something about and you were in your loft there, and I could see the windows, and I feel like the sentiment of the post was, I'm, back to doing what I should be doing. Like it was that sort of thing, talking about how you were in your art again. And then, of course, subsequently following you on Instagram, watching you out riding your horses and, making the English muffin things with your kids and your husband. And it's like you could just see the switch. And I have to say, I've 9,000 times looked at your post and thought, I just want to move to Wyoming and ride horses with Tawna.
Well, there's about 3 months of the year that's correct. The rest of the time you'll need, a parka and some hand warmers.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny. But, and that's the other thing too, to make sure that we point out in this is what business is like for you as a designer and an artist in Wyoming, because and your husband as a a house builder and construction firm owner and so forth, is that I think we take for granted, at least those of us that live in populated areas take for granted. I actually asked Tana off air. I said, is this a silly question? Is the area, I know because of watching your Instagram that you're in a rural area, but is all of Wyoming rural, or is it just like certain areas? And, LuAnn, we're a regular state with regular cities. And her answer to me was, well, we have 500,000 people in the entire state. And then I had to Google different things to get the relationship to that. And of course, in New Jersey, we have almost 9 million people. And in the city of Newark, which is, 10 miles from me, there's nearly 300,000 people. And so it really put a perspective for me on when Tawna says to us, I was pretty much always saying yes to every project. I mean, because how many are around the corner if you say no, right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not
That's
like
your only option.
So I just, think that just informs the magnitude of you're stepping back and stepping away and leaning into the art. But the idea is that it really did get you back to this place where you have this understanding of, I think what it is, I want to say about it is, it sounds like like you said, you've done so much work in the beginning of being an intentional business owner, of being that driven entrepreneur. And how do I learn this? How do I do this? Who's going to teach me that? What different things do I need to bring into my business? And then to find yourself 10 years later and not feeling fulfilled, I can imagine that that you described in there, that next transition of, okay, I'm so accustomed to placing the job on my interior design firm of providing the income. But what would happen if I was okay with that only making 40% of my family's needs? And if I did art, then that would make 10%. And if I did renderings, that would be 10%. And if I did, I noticed too, we didn't talk about it, but you also said to me in your email that you were doing online painting classes for other people to help them connect back to their art. And I think there is, what I want to say about it is, I don't want to underestimate the fear that would be attached with that, because if interior design is providing, whatever our business is if it's providing 100% of what we've determined as a family it needs to bring in for us to be, who we are and what we want to do with our family and our children, our lives, to say, well, it's only going to do X percent, but this is going to do 10 and this is going to do 10. You see, if you said, oh, hey, I just signed a contract and I'm going to be, have these, and that's going to bring in 50%, then that's an easier decision. Hey, 50 here, 50 here. But when the others, I think, are probably much smaller slices, I can hear and see and put myself in the place of, is this really going to work? Like 10, 10, 10, 10, 50? Like that can work? Because that's scarier, right?
Yeah. And it just doesn't seem like, well, it's never, I don't know.
The security. That's what it is.
Yeah.
The security.
Yeah.
It's
They said that about
secure.
interior design too. So I'm like, well, it all's kind of been kind of not secure, but
and see, there, that might be the big lesson, right? That might be the lesson that, everything about entrepreneurship is not secure. That's the thing. Every day, it's like our friend Sandra Funk says, you got to show up every day and do it again. And Sarah Brennan says showing up isn't enough. But it's like Sandra always says, you got to get up and do it again every day. You got to get up and do it again. There's no days you're like, not feeling it today, right?
And the other fearful part I had was, will I really confuse people? Like, because from a marketing standpoint, that's probably a disaster, right? Like, what the heck is that girl doing?
Right.
Is she a legit designer? Because I see her doing art and I see, I think that's the biggest thing I thought about was, how will this message come across to people? Will they know that what I can do as a designer still, if I am showing on Instagram, and then there was all this advice, like, we'll just separate it out, maybe like just have your account over here and your personal over here. And I just decided again, like, I need one social media account. I don't want all of these things for myself. And whether it's right or wrong, this is what I'm doing. And hopefully, the portfolio and stuff speaks for itself. That was probably my biggest worry.
And what's so funny is that I know that I have absolutely made the case for keeping your personal out of your professional Instagram and social. I know I have. And people are going to say, wait, you're going to say this is okay now? And and
not for everybody.
That's the thing. You see, that's where I was just going to go. When I look at your Instagram, Tawna, it's just so you. And I guess what I mean by that is there is this tiny nuance in when I look at your Instagram and I see you with your horses, or I see you with your art, or I see you with your husband or your children, it makes me smile. And then when I go to the profile and I see that you're an artist, an interior designer, all of these things, I literally just feel like it is the ultimate expression of a creative person living their best life. And
Oh,
that
that's awesome.
is, it does to me. And that is, if I think about wanting to hire an interior designer, I think there's tremendous value in that, because if I'm going to spend tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on my home, I feel like I want somebody that gets that that's what I want in my life. I want it to be everything I want it to be. And of course, if I'm, you know, I don't know, buying 16 penthouses in Chicago, and I'm, that's a different kind of design, right? That's a different kind
Mm-hmm.
of designer, and it's a different kind of project. I'm a developer, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to sell 50,000 penthouses. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about the other, and so, and I also think there's something different in showing, I don't know what, I can't even say, I was going to say showing what you had for lunch on your main feed as opposed to showing that you're riding horses, and that's not it, because if really what you're all about is cooking and showing what you have for lunch, then I'm going to like that just as much too. But there
Mm-hmm.
is there's an intangible, I'm going to use the crazy word that we all hate, curation, in showing me the real you and having it connect me to why I care about it being the real you. I don't know if I'm hitting an explanation here, but you're hitting it
Well,
in the social. That's all I can tell you.
thank you. I've tried to make that a place that's real, um, and positive. That's a fine line to walk, right? Like
Mm,
it's where I do think about what I put out there, privacy and, um, but I still want it to be a positive place. Like I think there's plenty of places to go, um, that are negative. So I'm intentionally making that Instagram the best I see while making it, the word has been overused, authentic.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm. But
this
that's
is
it.
really this is really what, I do. This is really what I love. And I, forever that first line said design studio. And I remember the day I went and I was like, I mean, Marie Forleo can say multi-passionate creative. Why can't I? You know what I
Right.
mean? Because all of these things are a part of who I am and what I do, and this is what I love. We worked really hard to have this place to be able to have the horses and be with the girls doing that, and I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And I really, where I'm hesitating and struggling is I almost feel like I would need to have like Kay Whitaker or Nicole Heimer or design writer Deb, almost like these women that I know are branding experts, to explain what we're trying to figure out.
you're
Why is
right.
it okay for you to do this, but other people it's not? Because
I
I
don't know.
remember Lori Paranjape saying on the show, and it stuck with me, the Instagram main feed is the front of the front inside the front door, and the stories or whatever is the back door or something like that she said, and it made sense. It's like, put all the professional up front, put it the way you want it to be, present yourself, attract your client, blah blah blah, and in the back door show your real, the funny side, the quirky side, whatever it is, and it makes perfect sense. And I can't understand why it doesn't. But these, I'm not a branding expert. It would be part of the reason why I can't explain what I feel. That's the thing. When I see your Instagram feed, it feels right. That's the only, it feels authentic, that crazy word, but there it is, and that's the truth. So
Well, I think just like anybody else, if you have to fake it, it's going to fall apart.
right.
So if it's really coming from the things you love, if it's not just a marketing ploy, like that's another part I got really sick of, is like, make this image, make this, image like this or this. And I was like, what if we just showed it how it really was? I was just like, that's me. Like, it is what it is. So, I think it's unsustainable for people to. I think you can separate them, and that might work really well for you. Um, but if we have to keep marketing to an image we're trying to create that isn't all the way there,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it doesn't work, I don't think. And people are seeing it all over, and I think people are asking for people to be a little more real and
Mm.
not have that super polished image. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it. It would be interesting to see what a marketing person said
Yes,
about that.
right?
So,
Aren't you dying
mhm.
to know? I wish I could just like dial one in, like get a lifeline here.
Yeah.
I mean, I really am. And I probably will ask Nicole after we get off the podcast.
Yeah. Well, email me. Tell me what she says. I would
Right?
like to.
I
Don't
mean,
email. I
and
want
the
to
thing
email.
is, it kind of goes back to what we said earlier in the conversation is that you do have to just do you and you do have to listen to your inner voice. And when you do that, like I've said that, I've raised my kids on that. If your goddess says to do it and you do it and you end up in trouble or a pickle, it's okay. If you can look at my eyeballs and tell me that you didn't hear any inner voice that said, don't do this, I probably shouldn't, then I will stand with you and I will defend you and I will help you get out of whatever you got into. But when I say to you, why did you do this? And you say, well, I kind of knew I shouldn't, but I thought it wasn't going to be so bad. Well, then we're going to have problems in River City. You're going to go to the principal. You're going to take your medicine. You're going to whatever it is, you know? And so
Hmm.
I think that's what it is. It's you're looking at what you're doing and how you're showing up and how you're presenting it. And you're just saying, yeah, I'm good with that. That's who I am. And I think that's what we got to do, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
think we do. I really do. And whatever the actual marketing branding reasons are.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm glad for you, Tawna, because how long did you pull back? I don't remember asking you that part.
It really was kind of all of 2019.
Whoa, a whole
Um,
year.
I mean, I still kept doing stuff, but I was really in the place where um, I was like, I could go any direction with this at this point because, you know, I, there's a lot to consider
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
here. So it was kind of the whole year. And once I got into September, and did that photo thing, and I got my just excited about doing stuff again, got some amazing interior design clients that, that I'm working with right now. The jobs are fun,
Mm.
maybe the moral of the story is just stick it out. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone has rough patches. No, no, you gotta sort of figure out how you can make it more realistic for your personality, for the area that you live, for your family, and get sort of creative and different ways that you could bring in income other ways. Because, I mean, the interior design industry is volatile as it is, tied so much into the economy. What are our backup plans for um, when things get tough?
Mm-hmm.
That's always a question in the back of my mind. Are we diversifying enough? Do we have enough areas of income coming in to where, it isn't just ride or die
Right.
in this one area?
It's so true. Well, now you are leaning into and really talking to like Toby Fairley, Leslie Carruthers. These are leaders in our industry that this is what they're always saying: diversify, have different income streams, figure out other ways that you can support yourself and your lifestyle and what you want to do, because they just really firmly believe that it's a smart business move to make. How each of us does it is up to us to figure that out, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And you mentioned to me, before I let you go, you mentioned to me a sentence that you read in a book by Chase Jarvis. You want to talk to us about that
Mm-hmm.
a little bit?
So his book is Creative Calling, if you guys haven't picked it up. I'm a voracious reader, so I've go through a lot of books, but if your listeners or you guys have not read that, that's a fantastic book. And towards the end, he talked about chasing our meaning, not the money. And this is all of this where I'm just sitting here thinking a lot of times in interior design, I am just chasing it for the money. And that's probably why, I'm feeling burnt out right now. And so again, it's following that little spark. And I wouldn't say I have a definitive meaning to everything that I do. I think that's still going to work itself out over the years. I'm sure my art will take a direction that will feel like I have a certain message or something, but it's just showing up every day for the work and at least having your why in place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is why I'm here today, seeing the faces of your kids lined up, or that mortgage, paid in full, whatever it is. Chase the meaning, not the money. So much in coaching, we can just get focused on, oh, well, I'm going to visualize X amount of money this year. And we just numbers. Well, life doesn't happen in numbers.
Right.
It doesn't. And maybe that number could be this number if we adjusted a couple of things. So
there's no question. I love it. And now you sound like this whole line of thought is just like my cousin Eileen. And she's an excellent, excellent coach, but it's because she's always trying to help you do what you're meant to do. Not what you think you should do, not try and force yourself to do it in a way that doesn't feel comfortable, but you've been told you should do it that way. It's really, and she takes it all the way through building your team and really having every single person, when every person comes to whatever they do, to where you have found yourself, Tawna, where you said you've got the spark and you can feel everything is right. Then what happens is the money follows. It just does, because you're happy in what you're doing, and you're not, to me, I know it's like you're not working against the universe, you're working with the universe. That's what I believe. It's like you really are in step now. You're in step with your inner person, you're in step with your inner goddess, you're in step with your family, you're in step with your ideals, your values, your goals. And then everything else falls into step. That's just how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it.
It just does.
I love it. Well, but it takes a lot of courage when you feel like you're not in step to put the brakes on and to make this adjustment. And so that really is the whole reason for your sharing this, is because we know that there are others out there that are just shaking their head right now and saying, oh my goodness, this is how I feel. And whatever putting the brakes on means for you, you have to figure that out. It's different for every person, right? But this is one of those success stories for doing that, for putting on some brakes and for reevaluating and for looking inward is what you did, and to be able to come out the other side just happy and feeling so much better about everything, right?
Well, yeah, and it reminds me of that. It's a Danielle Laporte, the right choice is the light choice. And I always think like even if someone is in the weeds right now and they're just like, I have no idea what to do, you can kind of start with, what would it be if I took this off my plate? And literally one of the first things I kind of decided, which sounded risky too, but I'd struggled working with some of the contractors and stuff here. Communication wasn't good. Well, I said, what if for a little while I just said, if it's not just like a furniture job and we're getting into a major remodel or a new home construction, if you want me on the job, you have to have, like, Dave has to be the contractor. We don't have the same businesses, but I said, what if I just simplified that whole area, because our communication is flawless. I can get him the drawings. He knows he appreciates what I bring to the table. if there's something a designer or any business owner could do, could just pick one thing. What if this part is really bugging me. Could we take it out? Could we do it differently? And just start with that one thing that's really heavy, that's troubling you, and just start there and pick at it one by one by one.
I love it. I love it. What could I not do, right? What would I do if I took this off my plate? It's so funny because Madeline McRae is a business coach, and she said to me one time, and she happened to, come across my path when I was particularly stressed out about something, and we were at a conference together, and I walk by and she's sitting at the bar and she's like, "What's with that face, lady?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's my how am I ever going to get all this done face, but don't you worry about me." And I make a joke, and I'm under stress, but I handle it, I process it, I move on. But what she pointed out to me was, just because I can do something, do I have to be the one to do it? And so what she said to me is I was joking about what I had to get done all before I went on to do a keynote that was in 38 minutes or blah, blah, blah. She just said, "Can I offer you a sentence that might serve you?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And she said, "Why don't you start asking yourself, who else can do this other than me? Who else can do this other than me?" And I said to her, and this is I'm going to take a minute with this now because it was really interesting, because I had a presentation due in 38 minutes. I had just found out that I had not brought the handouts. Okay. And so here was the thing. It wasn't the presentation in 38 minutes that I needed the handouts, but it was the presentation the next morning at 8:30 a.m. that I needed the handouts, and we were switching hotels. But the point was that I was like, this was my only chance to leave this hotel, go to a Kinko's, get them printed again, and come back. Even though it was early enough in the day, but it was my only window of opportunity to do it. And I said, and I was making a joke, and I just Googled it, and it's a 14-minute ride each way. Do you think I could do this in 28 minutes? Can I? And I said, "So love you, gotta go. I'm heading out to the Uber." And she just stopped me and she said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Right, but no one else can do this. I mean, can you get up from the bar now and go do this? Are you going to go do this?" Joking with her. And she just said, "No, I'm not. But who else could do this for you?" And do you know what happened? At that moment, I realized that Kim was flying into this event that night. But when I looked at my watch and I figured it out, I'm like, she's not left for the airport yet. She probably can download these, print them, and bring them. And she's coming to my 8:30 event. It was mind-blowing. And I called her, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm still here at Window Works. I'm leaving in an hour for the airport. I've got my bags with me, yada, yada." And it was and I sat down, and I went back, and I went back to Madeline, and I said, "So I just found myself with 22 minutes. Let's have a drink." It's insane. So what can you take off your plate? What would it look like if you took it off your plate? And I love that, because then you just said, "Yes, I'll do your project, but with Dave." "Oh, you don't want Dave? Never mind." Right.
We can't do this, and here's the reasons why.
Right. Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Oh my goodness, Tawna, I can't tell you how happy I am for you. I'm a tiny bit jealous, but I'm mostly really, really happy for you.
Well, you're just going to have to take a vacation to Wyoming. September's the best month. Do not come in February.
Exactly. Well, I just wish you all the best and all, good things to keep coming from the realizations of, like you said, this Chase Jarvis, to make meaning, not make money, not money, and to pursue your values. It's really, really something, and it's something for all of us to think about and to have a little moment with ourselves with, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk. It was good.
Me too. Thank you. So, as I said, I really, really do like Tawna so much, and I think you probably do too, right? She has a very quiet power about her, doesn't she? And I actually really loved her willingness to be open to new possibilities, to follow her gut, and to have the courage to put the brakes on when the life she had created for herself and her business that she had created for herself weren't feeling right. right? This is not an easy thing to do. I mean, you work really hard, just like Tawna did, to build this business for 10 years. And then to all of a sudden have this realization that the business that she built didn't look the way she wanted it to look. It didn't feel the way she wanted it to feel. And I have to say that is a come to Jesus moment, right? If I've ever heard one. So, but when she went through it and she pulled everything back and she, like she said, turned down the noise, it was a little cathartic, right? And that feeling of drawing the line in the sand and saying no more, that is a freeing feeling. And if you are in that space and you're needing to do that, maybe take a little courage from Tawna. She did say it was scary, right? It's not easy to do, but borrow some courage from her if you find yourself in the same place, okay? And then the other thing is that when she did get back to business, she started to think about what should it look like? And that moment when she thought to herself, well, I don't really want to do this with all these contractors that I don't know and that I can't rely on. And I'm not, the project, I can't be sure it's going to go smooth. And so what happened? She realized that she had the power to say, I'm not going to do this project unless you hire Dave to be the contractor, because I know Dave's work and I know how we work together and I know together we can make a great project. You see? So this is important. This is important to understand that you have the ability to say how it will be in your business. And if you have to do this too, if you have to get quiet and turn everything off and figure out what it is that you want your business to be, it's okay to do it. And, I don't know if you remember, but Albie Boabing described this too in episode number 348. She also needed the silence so that she could really hear what her inner voice was saying. So if you need to hear another take on this, I suggest that you go back to episode 348 with Albie. All right. And then the other thing is not only did she decide what the projects would look like, but when she was enjoying her art, she looked for ways that she could have more of that in her day, added more days of art. And then she realized, there's another way for me to make money. And right, remember in the conversation, there was that moment of, well, maybe being an artist isn't going to make the full living that I need to make in order to be the part of the family that I need to be here, right? But okay, so a little here, a little here, a little here, and she has created a life that matches and aligns with her purpose. Okay. And so this is a very powerful thing. And as I have recorded this episode and as I am literally recording this introduction and this outro, I have been knee deep into book 3, the Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2. And Desi Cresswell's chapter in the book is all about this, about creating a business that aligns with your vision for your business, but for your life too. So often we get very focused on our business goals and we don't pay attention to how they fit within the lifestyle that we want for ourselves. And this is different for all of us at all different stages of life, right? So I have no kids in the house, so I can work as many hours as I want. But when you have kids and you have to have the priority there, or Tawna, she just wanted time to paint and to think and to breathe and to ride her horses, right? So this is what Desi does. She teaches you to not only hear that inner voice, but to have the strength and the confidence to answer that voice. Tawna found it in herself. She did it. But, you remember, she said she went back to the lessons that she had learned from a coach years before. Okay, so we all need a little helping hand sometime. And for Desi, she's teaching the course for me this fall, Increase Confidence, Increase Profit. And it is centered around this idea that you don't necessarily, what are you waiting for, right? You're waiting to have the perfect project. You're waiting until you have this certain kind of client so that you can raise your prices, or you're waiting until, you are more organized so that you think you can charge more. Whatever it is you're telling yourself, what Desi knows and what I know also is it's between your ears. That confidence is, there's the word self-confidence, right? It's self. It starts with self, knowing that whoever you are at this moment is exactly enough. It is exactly enough. And so for Tawna, she learned that. She had to close everything down and pay attention and listen, but she learned it. And she decided that I don't have to have an interior design business that brings in all of the revenue that I need in order to be the part of my, to be my part in this family here. I can paint and that can bring in something, and I can do renderings and that can bring in something else, and I can do the design projects and only the design projects that I like. You see? So you can learn this confidence. And with Desi, it's a 6-week course, and she goes through the various modules in order for you to develop the skill set and the mindset in order to flip this switch. Okay, so if you're in this space, any space, you could be rocking and rolling and really happy with your business. It doesn't have to be a come to Jesus moment of, should I close my business? You could be at any space, but if you are questioning whether you should send an invoice, whether you should lower an invoice before you send it, if you should pitch yourself for a magazine, if you are having any doubts like that, then I need you to know that you don't have to wait months or years to overcome that. It is mindset. It is something that you can learn to overcome. Okay? All right. So if you're interested in that, go to increaseconfidence.increaseprofit.com. We start in 1 week. I hope that I will see you there. In the meantime, I'm just so grateful for Tawna to come on here and share this with us and to open it up and to be vulnerable, okay? And to really, share how she created a whole new life. Now she's doing what she loves. She's excited about it. And, remember the advice of the author that she mentioned. His name was Chase Jarvis. And she said, he told her, in his book, he said, start chasing the meaning and not the money. All right. And when Tawna did that, things fell into place. And so that is terrific advice, and I love it. I would love for you to check out Tawna's website and her Instagram. She really, she has created an amazing, beautiful life. It really is. So it's Tawna, Tawna, Allred, ALLRED.com. All right. And on Instagram, it's at Tawna Allred. All right. So, one more thing. Let's just thank MyDoma. Why not? While we're at it, let's thank MyDoma, because they make our life better, right? They help us increase our confidence by being able to be well organized and putting a good face front forward to our clients with our projects organized, our communication organized, our time tracking organized for us, our QuickBooks integration there. This is a big part in confidence, right? Is when your business feels like it's well run and everything is locked down. And so I want that for you too. All right. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. That's mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. All right. I hope you got a boost of inspiration today from Tawna. Take it, use it, make something good happen with it. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.